What they did to you in the dark is all coming out now. Hello, and welcome back to Veronica's Journal, where we discuss spirituality, psychology, and mental health. So together we can evolve as a community that's unstoppable. How you doing, guys? I hope you're doing well. You ever notice how things done in the dark never stay there? Forever, at least? At some point, something shifts. And what was hidden starts to rise. Not all at once, not loudly at first, but subtly, undeniably. And if you've been through gangstalking, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because what they did to you was never meant to be seen. It was calculated, quiet, behind closed doors, behind screens, behind fake smiles and carefully crafted masks. They needed to stay hidden because the moment it's exposed, everything changes. And deep down, they knew that. That's why so much of what you experienced felt very confusing, disorienting, like you couldn't even prove it, but you could feel it. You could feel the coordination, the patterns, right? The way people seem to know things they should know, your secrets, your private life. The way situations lined up just a little too perfectly against you. That wasn't your imagination. That was intention. But here's the part they didn't account for. Truth doesn't disappear just because it's hidden. It waits, and eventually it surfaces. And right now, that's the time. What's happening? That's what's happening now. What they did to you in the dark is all coming out. And not always in the way you expected, not always with a dramatic reveal, but in pieces, in realizations, in people exposing themselves without even realizing it, in contradictions, in slips, in energy, because truth has a frequency and lies can't hold it forever. And the more you heal, the more clearly you start to see it. That's the shift they never wanted you to reach, your clarity. Because when you were confused, they had control. When you were questioning yourself, they had power. But the moment you start trusting your own instincts again, the moment you stop dismissing what you feel and second guessing yourself, the moment you step back and really looked at everything, their whole system started to crack, and it's crashing now. Because gangstalking relies on one thing more than anything else. That's your silence, confusion, and self-doubt. If they can keep you questioning yourself, they didn't have to hide it very hard. When you became aware, when you start connecting the dots, right? When you stop explaining away patterns that didn't even make any sense, that's when the darkness starts losing its grip. And here's something a lot of people don't talk about, okay? See, exposure doesn't always mean it has to be public. Sometimes exposure is internal. It's you finally seeing clearly. It's you no longer being manipulated. It's you recognizing who played a role and how. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That's exposure. That's truth coming out. And for them, that's dangerous. Because everything they built depended on you staying in the dark. Think about that for a minute. If everything they did was truly harmless, then why hide it? Why the secrecy? Why the coordination? Why the need to discredit you, isolate you, confuse you? Because they knew. They knew that if anyone looked too closely, if you look too closely, it won't hold up. And that's where things start to turn. Because now you're not the same person anymore you were when your gangstalking started. You're not as easy to manipulate. You're not as quick to trust people, surface level behavior. You see patterns now. You feel energy differently. You notice inconsistency and awareness. That light that you have, that light exposes everything, not just them, but the entire structure around them. And here's the part that really hits. They can feel that shift in you. Even if you're not saying a word, even if you're not confronting anyone, they can feel that you see differently now. And that makes people uncomfortable. Because when someone knows, like really knows, the illusion can't survive the same way it did. That's why sometimes behavior changes. People get distant or overly nice or strangely reactive. Because on some level, they know you're not in the dark anymore. And they don't know what you're going to do with that awareness. But here's the truth. You don't need to expose everything publicly to reclaim your power. No, you don't. You don't need validation from people who were never meant to understand your experience. Because not everybody goes through it. The biggest shift happens within you. When you stop seeking confirmation, when you stop seeking validation and start standing in what you know, standing in your truth, because what they did to you, it mattered. It affected you. It changed you, but it didn't break you. And now the truth is surfacing in a different way, through your awareness, through your growth, through your ability to see clearly without needing to prove anything to anyone. And that's something they can't control anymore. They could control the narrative when you were unsure of yourself. They could influence things when you were reactive. But they can't control someone who sees right through it, who isn't playing the game anymore, who isn't feeding the system with fear, confusion, or emotional reactions. That's where your power is now, not in fighting in the way that they expect, but in rising above the need to engage with all of that. Because once truth starts coming out, the system starts collapsing on its own. You don't have to tear it down. It just can't sustain itself under light. And that's what's happening now. Slowly, quietly, but surely. What they did to you in the dark is all coming out in ways they didn't predict. And maybe not in the dramatic way people expected, but in the most important way possible. You now see it and understand it. You're no longer controlled by it. And that right there, that's the real exposure. And this brings us to the end of the video. Hit that like button right now and share it with one other person. Subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Until next time, guys, take care. Have an awesome day. Love y'all.